The Donald Trump administration is planning to expand military action against Venezuela, possibly including a ground invasion. Since the United States has recognized Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his allies in the government as members of a foreign terrorist organization, this essentially allows them to legally invade Venezuelan territory to overthrow the Maduro regime. And it looks like the time for warnings is over. And now many experts are rightfully asking the question, what will happen to Nicolas Maduro? A reward of $50 million has been placed on his head. The CIA is openly active in Caracas, and United States troops are gathering in the Caribbean. Some expect the United States to oust him like Saddam Hussein. Over the past 2 weeks, leading Republican neoconservatives have been pushing for this. Others are wondering if Nicolas Maduro might step down on his own, especially since even neighboring Colombia has called on Maduro to simply leave. But then they immediately ask, if you remove the top of this pyramid in the form of Maduro, will the pyramid itself remain? And what should be done with the so-called Chavistas, the Chavista movement, who will still continue to carry out their so-called internal anti-imperialist revolution? So let's discuss in this episode what happens next. My name is Alexei Peachy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave any comment under this episode. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News, the link is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. The United States has labeled Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his government allies as members of a foreign terrorist group. Designating the De Los Soles cartel as a foreign terrorist organization will allow President Donald Trump to impose new sanctions targeting Maduro's assets and infrastructure. But experts insist that the purpose of such recognition is not to impose new sanctions, but to expand the authorization for the use of deadly force. And now representatives of the Trump administration claim that this designation, one of the most serious tools of the State Department in the fight against terrorism, will give the United States expanded military capabilities to strike Venezuelan territory. According to experts, the term Cartel de los Soles is used as a description of a decentralized network in Venezuela. The president of Venezuela has always denied any personal involvement in drug trafficking, and his government has repeatedly denied the existence of the alleged cartel, which, according to some experts, does not formally exist. In the conventional sense, it's more like a network of corrupt officials who are close to the Venezuelan president. It's a decentralized network of influence. So, in the classical sense, it's very hard to call it a cartel, but in essence, that's what it is. But don't forget that the declaration of Maduro as an international terrorist came after the American military concentrated almost 24 huge warships and 15,000 troops in the region as part of an operation the Pentagon called Southern Spear. And then high-ranking officials briefed Donald Trump on various options for action inside Venezuela, including strikes on military or government targets and special forces raids. However, there is also the option of applying such a level of pressure on Maduro that he simply agrees to step down himself. But something interesting happened here. It was exactly at the time when Nicolas Maduro was recognized as an international terrorist in the United States. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States Army, General Dan Kane, and his senior advisor, David Asom, personally went to the military base in Puerto Rico, which is considered the main base that could later be used for an attack on Venezuela. Interesting coincidence, isn't it? It's interesting that at the same time Trump publicly expressed some openness to a diplomatic resolution. He stated last week that Maduro would like to talk and later suggested that he would be open to talking with him at some point. But in the end, last Thursday, at least 6 American planes appeared off the coast of Venezuela for several hours, including a supersonic F-A-18 fighter jet, a B-52 strategic bomber, and a reconnaissance aircraft. They circled near the Venezuelan border for hours. And now many people are wondering what will happen to Nicolas Maduro. A $50 million reward is offered for his capture. The CIA is already active in Caracas, and United States troops are gathering in the Caribbean. Some are counting on the United States to overthrow him Saddam Hussein style. Others are wondering if Maduro might step down voluntarily. Because even Colombia's foreign minister Rosa Yolanda Villavicencio Mapi stated that a peaceful departure of Maduro from the presidency would be the healthiest option. Next, they will quote Mapi. I believe he was really considering the possibility of a transition when he could leave without going to prison, and when someone would come who could carry out that transition, and when legitimate elections would be held. That would be the most reasonable decision. But it should be remembered that Maduro and his colleagues in power are well aware that leaving office without immunity guarantees could lead to imprisonment or extradition to the United States. But for now, Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has stated that the country is not giving up. Here is her quote: "What Venezuela is experiencing today, I would not call dangerous times. No, instead times of historical significance, a major uprising. So that they know these people will not give up, these people cannot be blackmailed." Remember this quote? We'll revisit it. On the other hand, experts on Venezuela insist that many observers underestimate the degree of commitment that Maduro and his circle have to Chavismo, a socialist movement named after Hugo Chavez and serving as the state's guiding ideology. When Venezuela's vice president says, "We will not surrender, we are the rebellion, the people cannot be blackmailed," this is a direct reference to Chavismo. That's because Maduro and his movement sincerely consider themselves revolutionaries, an anti-imperialist, historically important project that, has defied the United States and has been living its own way for many years. They really see themselves as revolutionaries who are against America, the only ones together with Cuba, letting America know its place. That's why there are also concerns inside Venezuela that even after Maduro is overthrown, there will simply be a witch hunt for Chavistas in the country. These Chavistas, fearing a witch hunt, might start a real conflict. And that's why Maduro's own inner circle might simply not let him leave office. They'll be afraid of persecution, so they won't allow him to step down. Therefore, we come to the conclusion that an acceptable way out for Maduro could be, for example, exile to Russia. But only on the condition of pressure from his own closest inner circle. I like that expression. It's used in diplomacy. Insiders of the regime, meaning the internal players of that very regime. Because he won't leave willingly, and that's why the United States will have to fight not only Maduro, but also a whole network of his supporters who have built an entire corrupt empire inside Venezuela. Moreover, experts say that Maduro has built a pyramid around himself of people who benefit greatly from his power. So even if Maduro is removed, the pyramid still remains. And there will still be many people interested in keeping things the way they are. Chavismo can cover all this up claiming, "We're revolutionaries, we're the people, let's go to war to keep things as they are." And here experts remind us how, after the death of Hugo Chavez in 2013, many mistakenly believed that his political project had come to an end and that Venezuela would start a new life. But no. His place was immediately taken by Nicolas Maduro. So the same thing could happen again now. Maduro might leave, but a new dictator would take his place. That's why the entire pyramid of Chavistas needs to be defeated, otherwise overthrowing Maduro won't lead to anything. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all. Take care. Goodbye.